That's my brother from another mother, and you're messing with my cousin, and I'm pregnant.
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds thought they were in control.
Well, joke's on him, because I have now been name-checked in this lawsuit.
They thought their lawsuit would be the final word, that Hollywood would rally behind them, and that anyone who questioned their version of events would be silenced.
We just read through this. We showed the public that's what you're doing.
But what they didn't expect? Candace Owens wasn't backing down. In a move that shocked everyone, Blake and Ryan dragged Candace into their lawsuit, accusing her of spreading misleading accusations, a clear attempt to shut her up. But instead of backing off, Candace did the opposite. She turned the tables, called out their hypocrisy, and exposed how desperate they were to bury the truth.
I am under your skin. I'm so excited. I'm under their skin. Blake and Ryan are watching.
Blake and Ryan wanted to control the narrative, but now Candace is fully locked in, making sure every hidden detail of this lawsuit gets exposed.
So there's a little bit of dirt thrown on me here because I'm the only other person that gets mentioned, and I want to be clear.
The worst part? She's not the only one watching. Hollywood, the media, and even former allies of Blake and Ryan are realizing that this case isn't as clean-cut as they wanted everyone to believe. So what did Candace Owens reveal that has Blake and Ryan scrambling? And at this point, is there even a way for them to recover? Let's break it all down.
We just read through this. We showed the public that's what you're doing. So I don't understand why I got name-checked here. And then just to say, predictably, the media outlets picked up the same narrative. They're like, they got me out here looking like Regina George when she cuts her shirt.
From the start, Blake and Ryan's legal strategy relied on secrecy. They wanted to control what information made it to the public, making sure only their side of the story was heard. But now, that strategy is crumbling. Their legal team recently filed an emergency request to have certain court documents sealed, arguing that some evidence could damage third parties, most notably Taylor Swift. At first, this sounded like a reasonable request, but Candace Owens and other insiders immediately saw through the tactic. This wasn't about protecting anyone, it was about burying information that could completely flip this case. And Candace wasn't about to let that slide. She immediately called them out, pointing out that if they had nothing to hide, they wouldn't be so desperate to keep documents sealed. She accused them of using legal loopholes to silence critics and manipulating the system to control public perception. Instead of helping their case, Blake and Ryan just made it clearer than ever that there's something they don't want people to see.
And I'm not sure what argument they're making because I'm not sure what argument they're ever making because their entire lawsuit is just filled with contradictions. But they use my tweet and they say, late last night, which is what I said, I tweeted this, late last night while we all slept, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds filed a protective order.
While Blake and Ryan claim this lawsuit is serious, their actions tell a completely different story. Ryan, who has stood by Blake throughout this entire case, just made things 10 times worse by joking about it on live TV. During the SNL 50th anniversary special, Ryan mocked the entire lawsuit, making it clear that he doesn't actually take it seriously. He expected the audience to laugh along, but instead, it completely backfired. Fans immediately called him out, pointing out that if Blake and Ryan truly believed they were victims, they wouldn't be turning this into a comedy skit. The backlash was swift, with many accusing Ryan of trying to distract from the real issue by making light of it. And this only made Candace Owens more relentless. She wasted no time tearing into them, calling out Ryan for his hypocrisy and accusing both of them of playing the victim while actively manipulating the public. Instead of silencing her, they gave her even more ammunition. And now, Candace isn't letting this go.
Like, no, I'm just telling the truth, and I don't understand what your problem is with me other than the fact that I am under your skin. I'm so excited. I'm under their skin.
Blake Lively spent years crafting the perfect Hollywood image. Every move was calculated, every media appearance carefully controlled. But now, that illusion is breaking. Candace sees right through her tactics, and she's making sure everyone else does too. She's exposed how Blake and Ryan tried to weaponize the legal system to silence critics, how they used their connections to control media coverage, and how this entire case was never about justice, it was about power. And the more Blake and Ryan scramble to control the damage, the worse it gets. Instead of burying the truth, they brought even more attention to it. Instead of shutting Candace down, they gave her more reason to keep exposing them. Instead of gaining sympathy, they're now the laughingstock of social media. Blake and Ryan thought they could control the narrative, but now they're stuck in a legal battle they started, and it's only getting worse. And what's coming next? They have no idea.
And Judge Lehman of New York instructed both of the parties of the suit to submit a proposed protective order. I think the deadline he gave them was March 10th for a proposed protective order.
Blake and Ryan's lawsuit was supposed to strengthen their position in Hollywood, but instead, it's making them look like a problem no one wants to deal with. When a scandal breaks, the first thing the industry watches for is who is willing to defend you. And right now, Blake and Ryan are standing alone. In the past, the media would have immediately taken their side, but now, major outlets are covering the lawsuit with more skepticism. Instead of framing them as victims, reports are highlighting inconsistencies in their claims and questioning whether this lawsuit was ever about justice. Even their biggest Hollywood allies are choosing to stay quiet. Taylor Swift, who once publicly supported Blake at every opportunity, has said nothing about the case. Scarlett Johansson, a close industry friend, has been noticeably absent from any conversation surrounding the lawsuit. Even Ryan's longtime collaborators, who used to publicly praise him, are now avoiding direct association. And it's not just silence, it's a strategic distancing. Studios that once prioritized their projects are re-evaluating their involvement. Upcoming films featuring Blake and Ryan are no longer being heavily promoted, and industry insiders are saying that some studios are already looking at alternative casting options. In Hollywood, once you start losing industry trust, opportunities start drying up. And right now, Blake and Ryan are dangerously close to reaching that point.
Blake's team filed for a slightly modified type of protection order that would include increased protections to third parties. Now, we covered this filing. I told you that essentially what was buried in it was what I would describe as the Taylor Swift clause.
Blake and Ryan's decision to name Candace Owens in their lawsuit was supposed to be a warning shot, an attempt to make an example out of her so that other critics would stay quiet. But instead, it had the opposite effect. Candace isn't just refusing to back down, she's firing back harder than ever. Unlike celebrities who rely on Hollywood connections to protect their reputations, Candace has nothing to lose. She's built her career on calling out hypocrisy and exposing hidden agendas. And now, she's treating this lawsuit as her next big fight. She's publicly dismantling Blake and Ryan's arguments, pointing out how their legal team is working overtime to bury evidence. She's gone after Ryan's SNL stunt, accusing him of mocking his own case, which completely undermines the seriousness of their claims. She's also turning the conversation toward Blake's attempt to suppress key court documents. If Blake and Ryan are so confident they're telling the truth, why are they fighting so hard to keep information hidden? What exactly are they so afraid of the public seeing? Candace is making sure that the more they fight her, the more attention they bring to the very things they want hidden. And with millions of people following her every move, Blake and Ryan are losing control of the narrative fast.
And they're saying, we only want this to be shared between the attorneys, not even with the parties to the suit. So that means, Brian Friedman can see it, their lawyers can see it, but we're talking like not even Melissa Nathan or Justin Baldoni could see it, because it might be very damaging to third parties.
This lawsuit was meant to silence criticism and protect their public image. Instead, it's turning into one of the biggest miscalculations of their careers. Legal experts following the case have pointed out major flaws in Blake and Ryan's strategy. Their request to keep certain court documents sealed is one of the biggest red flags. Typically, in cases like this, transparency is encouraged. So when a plaintiff is fighting to suppress evidence, it suggests that there's something damaging in those files. If the judge rules against them, those documents could be made public. And if that happens, it won't just be a legal loss. It could be a full-scale PR disaster. Emails, texts, and behind-the-scenes discussions could expose how this lawsuit was really planned. It could show that Blake and Ryan were more focused on controlling public perception than actually seeking justice. And once that kind of information gets out, there's no recovering from it. Hollywood is already hesitant about the risks that come with this case. If the court forces their private communications to be released, Blake and Ryan won't just lose industry support, they could lose their careers entirely. They thought they could handle this behind closed doors. Now, it's spiraling out of control for the whole world to see.
If Brian Friedman subpoenas Taylor Swift's text messages, wink, wink, that's what I want to see, and it reveals that actually Taylor Swift was LOLing with Blake Lively about being a dragon. She was like, yeah, I'm a dragon. Wow. She was like plotting the takeover of the movie because she's bored and it's Tuesday and Joe Alwyn isn't responding to her text messages anymore and she's already finished her album.
At first, Blake and Ryan's lawsuit seemed like a calculated move to silence critics while protecting their reputations. But now, every move they make is backfiring. Instead of shutting down conversations, they've given Candace Owens and other critics even more ammunition. The worst part? Even legal experts analyzing the case are pointing out major flaws in their strategy. Their attempt to keep key court documents sealed has only fueled speculation that they're hiding something damaging. Judges don't typically grant protective orders unless there's a legitimate reason, and arguing that third parties, like Taylor Swift, could be affected only raises more questions. If the judge rules against them, those documents could be made public. And if that happens, it won't just be a courtroom loss, it will be a full-scale PR disaster. Any evidence of manipulating the media, strategizing their legal attack, or contradictions in their statements could be the final straw that turns the industry completely against them. The irony? The more they fight to keep things hidden, the guiltier they look. Instead of putting an end to the backlash, they've made it 10 times worse. And Hollywood? It's watching closely, already making quiet moves to cut ties.
We have to distinguish between the two, what a standard court protective order is and what Blake Lively's team is asking for, which is an attorney's eyes only designation.
Blake and Ryan might not realize it yet, but behind the scenes, the industry has already started to move on. When an A-lister is at risk of becoming too controversial, Hollywood doesn't wait for them to fix things. It quietly replaces them. Studios that once lined up to work with them are now hesitant to commit to future projects. Casting directors who once saw them as box office gold are now looking for fresher, safer names. Even major brands, the ones that used to feature Blake and Ryan in luxury campaigns, are rumored to be reconsidering their partnerships. But the biggest indicator? Upcoming projects attached to Blake and Ryan are losing steam. Industry insiders are whispering that some of their upcoming films and endorsements are under review. This doesn't mean an immediate cancellation, but it means that Hollywood is already thinking about life without them. That's how the industry operates. It never cuts someone off overnight. It slowly pushes them to the sidelines until they become irrelevant. And right now, that's exactly what's happening. If they think they have time to turn this around, they're wrong.
If the judge actually grants that kind of a protection order, the attorneys would become the judge of what exactly could be designated AEO. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense.
At this point, Blake and Ryan are running out of options. They thought they could control how this lawsuit played out, but instead, they're losing on every front. Candace Owens is pushing the narrative against them harder than ever. The media is no longer blindly taking their side. Hollywood is already preparing to move forward without them. Their only way out? A dramatic shift in strategy. If they want to survive this, they need to stop acting like they have the upper hand and start repairing the damage they've done. That means dropping the fight to keep documents sealed, because if they don't, it will look like they're hiding something worse. It means taking accountability for their legal missteps instead of doubling down on failed PR tactics. It means trying to rebuild industry trust before it's too late. But even if they do all that, it might not be enough. Hollywood doesn't wait for people to fix their mistakes. It moves on. Blake and Ryan thought they were untouchable, but now they're dangerously close to being replaced. So, is this the moment their careers officially fall apart? Or is there still a way to fix this? At this point, it might already be too late. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss the latest Hollywood drama.